Wolf?
Jim, thanks very much. Madam Secretary, thanks very much to you for joining us. Let me start with the deadly police ambush in Dallas overnight, the deadliest day for police officers here in the United States since 9/11. What would you do as President of the United States to prevent this from happening again?
Well, first, Wolf, I've expressed my deep condolences and concerns to officials in Dallas and in the region there, including the county judge, the mayor, the police chief, because this is an absolutely horrific event. I also want us to remember that just 24 hours before, we had a killing with the loss of life in Baton Rouge, in Minneapolis, and right before talking with you, it appears we had an additional event in Tennessee. This is deeply troubling, and it should worry every single American. You know, we've got to do much more to listen to one another, respect each other. We've got to do everything possible to, support our police and support innocent Americans who have deadly encounters with the police. This is the kind of call to action, and as president, I would implement the very comprehensive set of proposals that I've been making for more than a year, including we must do more to have national guidelines about the use of force by police, especially deadly force. We need to do more to look into implicit bias, and we need to do more to respect and protect our police. Look at what happened in Dallas. Those police officers were protecting a peaceful protest, a protest of authority. That is a hallmark of America. And when the shooting started and everyone else was fleeing, the police were moving toward danger. So let's start understanding, putting ourselves in each other's shoes again, and really coming together as Americans to end this kind of terrible violence.
Madam Secretary, how would you bridge the divide between police officers who now feel targeted and African Americans who also feel they are targets?
Well, I think that's the most important question, Wolf, because we've got to do a lot more to bring the police together with the communities that they protect. And we have to have better lines of communication. As I said, we need national guidelines to really set out when force should be used, and especially when deadly force should be used. Some police departments have really taken that to heart. They've done an excellent job over the last years trying to figure out how to prevent any situation from escalating into the use of force. And at the same time, we need communities to feel that they can trust the police, that the police are trying to protect them. And that's going to take a lot more communication, a lot more bridge building. It's going to take a lot of training on the part of our police officers to get back into the communities, to understand what's happening in neighborhoods. I thought we were on the right track. Somehow we have veered off of it in recent years. I've met with so many family members of those who have been killed in encounters. I've certainly talked with police officers' families who also have been killed in encounters. And we just have to make up our minds that we're going to bring our country together. This is much deeper even than these terrible killings. We've got to start once again respecting and treating each other with the dignity that every person deserves.
Madam Secretary, the violence in Dallas, as you know, followed that fatal shooting by police a day earlier of a black man, Philando Castile, during a routine traffic stop in Minnesota. The governor there said that if the people in that car had been white, that wouldn't have happened. Do you agree with him?
Well, I know the governor called for a Justice Department investigation, and I absolutely support that. We've got to figure out what is happening when routine traffic stops, when routine arrests escalate into killings. And I don't think that we know all the answers for that, Wolf. Clearly, there seems to be a terrible disconnect between many police departments and officers.
But do you
and
agree
the
with the
people
governor,
they are trying
Madam Secretary?
to protect.
Do you agree with the governor when he said if those people had been white, they would not, he would not have been shot?
Well, I think we'll have to find where the evidence leads us, but the facts are clear, and the governor knows those facts, that too many African Americans have been killed in encounters with police over matters that should not have led to that action being taken. That's why, again, I reiterate a call for national guidelines. We have 18,000 police departments. Some of them are very small. Some of them are not very well trained. Some of them, don't really have the resources that are necessary to keep training and retraining. And frankly, Wolf, to go after systemic racism, which is a reality, and to go after implicit bias.
Here's the fundamental question, critically important right now. Why do you believe you would be better suited at handling the racial divide in America than Donald Trump?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I have been involved in working to try to close the racial divide my entire adult life. I've worked on issues of criminal justice reform, incarceration, juvenile justice for many decades. And I'm heartbroken that we have to keep repeating and doing that work year after year, but I am determined and I am persistent. And I will call for white people like myself to put ourselves in the shoes of those African American families who fear every time their children go somewhere, who have to have the talk about how to really protect themselves when they're the ones who should be expecting protection from encounters with the police. I'm going to be talking to white people. I think we're the ones who have to start listening to the legitimate cries that are coming from our African American fellow citizens. And we have so much more to be done, and we've got to get about the business of doing it. We can't be engaging in hateful rhetoric or incitement of violence. We need to be bringing people together. And I've said on the campaign trail repeatedly, we need more love and kindness. And I know that's not usually what presidential candidates say, but I believe it, and I'm going to be speaking about it from now all the way into the White House and beyond.
Let me turn to the sensitive issue, the email investigation. Now that the threat of criminal prosecution is behind you, what have you learned from this entire episode about your emails?
Well, first, I greatly appreciate the work that the FBI and Department of Justice did, and they handled it very professionally. And I have said many times, and I repeat clearly today, it was a mistake for me to use personal email, and I regret that. I am certainly relieved and glad that the investigation has concluded, but I also know how important it is to make sure everybody understands that I would certainly not do that again. That is something that at the time, as even Director Comey said, seemed like a convenience, but it was the wrong choice.
Because he clearly said you did not break the law, but Comey, the FBI director, also said in announcing his findings this week that you acted, in his words, extremely careless, in an extremely careless way in handling classified sensitive information. Do you acknowledge you were extremely careless?
Well, I think that Director clarified that comment to some extent, pointing out that some of what had been thought to be classified apparently was not. The State Department also made that clear. I think there are about 300 people in the government, mostly in the State Department, but in other high positions in the government with whom I emailed over the course of 4 years. I believe, did not believe they were sending any material that was classified. They were pursuing their responsibilities. I do not think they were careless. And as I have said many times, I certainly did not believe that I received or sent any material that was classified. And indeed, Any of the documents that have been referred to, I think, were not marked or were marked inaccurately, as has now been clarified.
But the FBI director did say about 110 emails were classified, various forms of classification, even if they had not been marked. He said someone in your position as Secretary of State should have known better. Here's the question: should you have known better?
I just believe that the material that was being communicated by professionals, many with years of handling sensitive classified material, they did not believe that it was. I did not have a basis for second guessing their conclusion, and these were not marked. They were not marked, and in retrospect, some have said, well, they should have been, but they were not at the time. And I have the highest regard for the people in the State Department who are doing the very hard work of diplomacy day in and day out, often under tremendous pressure from the field and under time pressures and questions from journalists and so much else. And I have no reason to believe that they were careless in their judgments in sending me the material that they did.
The State Department, as you know, has decided now to reopen its own internal review of your use of that private email server or servers now that the Justice Department, the FBI, has completed its investigation. Will you cooperate with this new State Department investigation?
Well, I assume they will pursue whatever process they think is appropriate, and I also assume that they will pay very close attention to what the findings were of the Justice Department investigation. But again, I will repeat, because I think this is important, over 300 people were on these email exchanges, some on many, some on a few. And these were experienced professionals who have had great years of dealing with classified material. And whatever they sent me, they did not believe and had, in my view, no reason to believe at the time that it was classified. So I am very proud of the work that we did during my 4 years. We dealt with 2 wars, financial collapse, the Arab Spring, and so much else. And I think that the professionals with whom I communicated were very careful about how they handled classified material, as I was over the course of those 4 years.
We're completely out of time, but very quickly, will you cooperate with this new State Department investigation? Because I know you didn't cooperate with the Inspector General of the State Department in his investigation.
Well, there was a Justice Department investigation going on at the time, and of course, I fully cooperated with that.
Madam Secretary, thank you very much for sharing some thoughts with us on this day.
Thank you very much, Wolf.
The former Secretary of State, back to Jim Sciutto right now. Jim.